Go for it.
Okay. So, what we're going to talk about in this little video is the role of the four limbs in a very basic rock situation, kind of getting to the core with what needs to be going on. Now, we've already talked about the throw-up exercise, and what you would want to be playing on either the hi-hat or the ride cymbal is the throw-up exercise. So on the hi-hat, you played in the German grip, and we focused on this in other videos. For now, just play tip of the stick and kind of about halfway up the cymbal, because when you're at the end, it's harder to get that response. The whole goal here, again, is to drive every stroke evenly and feel the response. Right? So you're not going to let the stick pop out the back of the hand. You're not going to open up the fingers in the front. You're going to throw from the wrist. It's a very wrist-oriented exercise, and you're going to basically bounce that basketball and just get out of the way of the stick. Okay? Every stroke even. Now again, is this the only way to play the hi-hat? Absolutely not, but this is what I want you to focus on for right now. So here, that's what's going on with the hi-hat. With the snare drum now, there's all kinds of misconceptions about what needs to happen, and again, we get so focused on downward force, downward thrust, we don't think that we have this beautiful force called gravity. So what I want you to do before we get any deeper into this is just to simply lift your arm. Let me pull that camera down a little now. Lift your arm and just let it fall on the snare. Like total dead weight right in the middle of the snare. Watch out for the rim. Don't smack yourself on the rim, but just let it fall. Dead weight. Now, if we take the same idea and we just put the two hands together and let that hand just fall on the snare, of course this is in a controlled way, so you're not going to let the stick go out of your hand. All you're going to do is kick it up from the wrist, so just like the lift-drop exercises that we've probably done, just kick it up and let it go into the arm, and then let it fall. Just fall down, okay? There's a tremendous amount of power and strength you can get from the heaviness of your arm and the downward force of gravity that you can make a tremendous amount of sound without having to worry about it. Now, we also want to think about connecting the two hands. So if we are playing throw-up the same every time here, right? Now, if we say up, down, up, down, up, down. And the idea is that it's going to be like this. If I take my hand and throw it upward, and then just let it fall down. Up, down. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. You see that? I'm not lifting it and then throwing it down. I'm putting it up and letting it fall down. Throwing it up and letting it fall. And I'm doing it by lifting and then letting all the energy go out of it as it drops onto the drum. So now this allows us to really bring the two hands together so that they both come down together. And everything is like, whew, it's just settling. Remember, 2 and 4 on your snare drum is a backbeat, okay? And a backbeat is a landing place, both in jazz and in rock. It's a way of just coming down and dropping. So if we could really get that thing to drop consistently by going up, down, and here, if we worked on the pad on our throw-up exercise and have it very consistent, now the two hands will be consistent. 2, 3, 4, up, down. I'll slow it down a little. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, as this is rock and roll, you're going to want to hit a backbeat with this. So, a rim shot, I mean. You're going to want to play a rim shot. It's perfectly okay to play a rim shot. So, even though you're dropping the stick, you can still play a rim shot, okay? Now, that's the two hands, and everything drops. It's open. It has space, right? Because the throw-up is still coming from that place of the 1930s where you're making people dance, but also making the music feel laid back, that African-American contribution to European-American rudimental and musical concepts. So now let's move the camera down and go to the foot, okay? And I'm going to move it over here so we can look specifically at the bass drum. Hopefully I can get that enough in place where we can see that. So you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So, two different ways we can initially approach this. Of course, there are many, many ways to play the bass drum, but the way we want to think about it is two different ways. One is simply to throw from the heel. Now, when you throw from the heel, the idea is to let the beater ball come in and out of the drum, because the point is not what this beater ball does when it contacts this drum head, right? It's what this foot is doing on this pedal. That's really where the music happens. That's where the action is, okay? So what I want you to think about is setting up and throwing. Setting up and throwing. When you throw, immediately come off. So the action of your foot is this, bop, bop, like that, okay? Now, also, if you flex your toes at the very end of the process, notice if I simply raise my toes, how my beater ball comes back just a little more, simply by raising my toes. So if I add that at the very end of the process, the beater ball comes off. We get a nice stroke, bam, a nice full sound of the drum. And we can play that with power. Okay? So the key is, imagine that your heel is nailed down through the heel plate, and that you have a spring in here, and you're never going to lift this up, and you're never going to let the weight come into the front part of the foot. Remember, there's just one technique. You got heel up, heel down. This is heel down. So we're just going to throw. Okay, now, if we're playing our throw-up exercise, so you'll be able to hear it when I play it, we set up the foot as the hand is coming up. So I'll just demonstrate here. 1 and 2. So, sorry. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Now notice my foot is not going to be able to come up as high as my arm is once my arm's up on the hi-hat. So we wait, we delay it a little. Up, down, right? You see how the delay of the foot, it doesn't come up exactly as the hand does, but it sets it up so the two meet at the top. And then as this guy comes down, we're dropping here, and they line up. Okay, just like with the snare drum. So now, I'm going to move this back. Oh, well, actually, the other way we could do this is kind of a heel-up thing, playing the bass drum, that is, where the foot starts up here, and we simply drop and roll through. We drop the weight of the foot. Now, if you've worked with me privately, then you probably have it. You do this thing where you just lift your leg up and let it fall on the ground and feel how heavy the leg is. So again, if we lift the leg and let it fall through, and roll and open up those toes, if we let the foot go like this, boom, right? Starts at the toes. We don't have to take our foot off the pedal. We just lift it up so it's still on the pedal, and then drop it, and roll through back into the heel. So this relates to that foot exercise, the initial foot exercise, where we're simply rolling the foot between two positions. So we start here and we roll into the lower position. Now we have another way to play the bass drum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. See how smooth that is? How the beater ball comes back again, just like this. Beater ball comes back. Here, beater ball comes back. It follows through after the stroke. Okay, so a heel down position, plenty of power, heel up, and we're going to raise the leg, and so, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 2, and roll through back into the heel, start at the top of the foot, roll through, and lift your toes, and comes up with the hand, okay? So now, we can play this whole thing together. And again, this is a simple exercise, but the difference is that when Steve Gadd or Steve Jordan plays this groove, it sounds amazing. When 999.9% of other drummers play this groove, it doesn't sound amazing. What's the difference? This stuff, okay? This idea of setup, drop, sound, tone, feel, gravity, dropping, letting it drop, getting yourself out of the way, getting your body's tension out of the way, just letting it drop, okay? So that's the difference, understanding what needs to go down when you're playing a hi-hat pattern. Again, this is not the only way to play the drums, but this is a way I can get you set up so that you feel these things happen in your body. So now we play it all together. We go throw up exercise and drop. 2 and drop. 4 and drop. 2 and drop. 4 and drop. And drop and drop and drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. See that? Always a lift and then a drop. With the leg, a lift and a drop. Or if we're playing heel down, a throw. But there's still a setup. And so everything locks. Things work happen, then we will, music will sound coordinated. Our limbs will feel coordinated, and we'll be saying something with our playing. There's a difference between moving your arms and legs and actually making music. I talk about this all the time, but that's where we need to go with this, and that's what we need to think about. Okay? Cool.